What do you do when your faith system no longer fits? Because sometimes you outgrow it. Sometimes you graduate, you ascend, you leave the old, itchy, worn-out way, and you begin to walk in the new. Sometimes you grow. Join the conversation with me, Tony Werfel, author, speaker, teaching pastor, as we help unwrap and rebuild a faith that no longer fits. We learn to walk into the new, messy journey called life. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our fourth podcast of Faith Undone, where we seek to deconstruct and then reconstruct a faith that works. And so I've already had a lot of you send messages and support for this, and I have to tell you, I'm so grateful for each of you. You're just such a blessing to me. Today, it's rainy here in Orange County, and I'm just sitting here at the desk, and I'm about to do this podcast. This is just so much. It's such a joy to do it. I fully enjoy just sharing these ideas and these thoughts and then interacting with you later. So please go to tonywerfel.com and send some comments. Let's get that conversation going. We're going to continue looking at this Genesis narrative for a couple more weeks. And after that, I've actually got something really special planned as well. So last week, we talked about the tree and what many Christians call the fall. And we understand now, though, that this was not about... It's not to be understood as like a fall from perfection, but a failure to allow wisdom to guide these people in their new awareness, the new knowledge that they've acquired. And so we understand that this man named Dirt and this woman whose essence is, the idea behind it is harmony, peace, all are symbols of Israel. And a deeper implication for us is they're actually symbols of mankind and our journey toward discovery. And so the hope, of course, is that we'll someday use wisdom to guide us in our discovery of knowledge and power and hopefully steer it all in the right direction. So with that said, after the story, this continues, and we see that this man Ish and Ish woman, they eat the fruit and they sense this nakedness. And again, I used to understand this as very literal. Like now they're aware that they're naked. Like, oh no, I'm not wearing boxers. What am I doing? I'm in class and I'm naked. Oh no, worst nightmare ever. But even on the felt board, I remember the teachers, they would talk about, oh, they're wearing light around them, but the light is removed, and oh no. So it's all kind of weird. But again, remember, this is a story with a tremendous amount of meaning for Israel. So we're told that they ate from the tree. They have this awareness of something, and it creates a gap. It creates a sense of loss. So I love the movie The Matrix. And for me, it's like this moment in The Matrix. You know that moment when Neo is sitting down across from Morpheus, and Neo, he takes the blue pill. And now that he's taken the blue pill, there's no going back. And he's now forever going to see the world different, and nothing can change that knowledge he's acquired. It's always there. You can't go back. And so the eating of the fruit, it's created this gap, this loss, and they weren't ready for what they gained because they hadn't acquired wisdom. Anyone ever wish you could take back like that one moment? You learn what's really in that taco meat and maybe how it's prepared, and how that restaurant is forever ruined. You just can't go back, even though you want to so badly. You know what it's made of, right? You learn Santa Claus wasn't real a little too early, and now it's just completely destroyed Christmas for you. Or you walk in on your parents, and now like sex, it's just got a different perspective. and one that is going to make you wish you could just wash your mind, right? Like it's changed how you view this forever. You ever have those moments when you've acquired knowledge and now it's created this gap? It's created a sense of loss. It's so painful. And so this is the idea of what happens. So in chapter 3, we're told Adam and Eve, they're given a curse from God. And again, I used to view this like very literally, that God is mad. And so oftentimes throughout scripture, when God gets mad, he kind of overreacts. And so it's not a surprise that he would curse mankind forever because he ate the wrong produce. Or when you look throughout the rest of scripture, you'll see God wipes out the entire earth with a flood, burns up an entire city, kills newborns to teach parents a lesson. needs the murder of animals to be satisfied. I used to read it this way. It's like, well, of course God's going to give him a curse because that's what God does when he gets angry. But again, remember, this is a story about Israel. Israel learning how to be in the world, how to handle freedom and knowledge, how to acquire wisdom. So what's interesting about these curses is that the Hebrews actually don't talk about chapter 3 as curses. They actually use this idea of observations, of what happens after one experiences the loss. The moment when you've taken the knowledge and didn't use wisdom to guide it. It's a moment of awareness, and consequences happen. There are consequences, and let's be honest, there always are. And so, of course, the first curse, it goes on the snake. And the snake, remember, this is a tribal people. They're wandering the desert. And so this annoying reptile was the bane of Israel's existence often when they're going through the desert. A wandering nation that would travel around the desert, the bite of a reptile, the bite of the snake, biting your camel, like you're toast. You're going to be carrying the weight of this, whatever was on the camel, for the rest of this trip. It makes sense now why they would use this image, doesn't it? It's this gnarly, annoying animal, or reptile, I guess. So, because now you've gone the wrong direction, you take the wrong path, or you learn something that's changed everything, and you've got a little extra baggage to carry, don't you? That's what happens. And so after cursing this annoying reptile, God turns to Aish, woman, and Ish, man. In verse 16 through 19, this is what it says. To the woman, he said, I'll greatly multiply your pain in childbirth. That just sounds so crazy if you really consider that. God makes childbirth painful now. I mean, if you've seen a birth, you know that is painful. My poor wife, she's amazing, but it was painful for her. Childbirth, God causes that? Are you serious? There's got to be something more to this. And so your pain in childbirth, you're going to bring forth children, yet your desire will be for your husband, and he will rule over you. This is not sounding good, to be honest with you. And it gets worse. Cursed is the ground because of you. In toil you'll eat of it all the days of your life. Both thorns and thistles it shall grow for you, and you'll eat the plants of the field. By the sweat of your brow you'll eat bread till you return to the ground, because from it you were taken, and for you are dust, and to dust you shall return. So, yeah, this sounds pretty weird, pretty archaic. Why would God be so angry that he would cause this just because they ate the wrong produce? But here's the deal. There's always deeper meaning. We learn that, right? We know there's something much deeper going on. So I want to point out two elements that I think are worth pointing out, and I think bring a lot of meaning. First of all, in your moments of life, those beautiful birth moments, those moments of awareness where you've learned something new, they will always be painful at first. Anyone ever seen a child being birthed? Because, again, it's nothing like the sterile, clean images of the big screen. It's actually really bloody and messy and chaotic, which I think is a great description of life. We learn, but learning, it comes with a price, doesn't it? Birth is messy. It's hard. And so this is the image also of farming the soil. It's not easy. It takes digging into the hard earth, pouring yourself into something daily. And here's the sad thing about farming is you don't get to see the results of that work and toil and everything until the very end. And so it's frustrating, and you wait till the end of the season. The reality is after you finish that project, that toiling of the soil, that thing you thought was going to bring you absolute happiness when the crop finally arrives, well, the reality is there's always something next. There's another project that gets put on your desk. The TPS report has to be done, a new one now. And there's another crop to begin in the new season. And so the birth of new ideas, the birth of change, growth, it all involves some painful experiences. So after the breakup, you learned something new about yourself, didn't you? After the 100th failure or attempt at trying the new thing, you finally got it right, but it wasn't easy. It took blood, sweat, tears, because that's what life is. And now watch this. It says, your desire will be for your husband, and he will rule over you. So let me just say this real quick, because I come from a tribe that used to take this and kind of twist it. This verse should never be used to beat a woman over the head and say you should be subordinate to your man. Basic observation here. It's a story. It's a story about a curse. It's a story about what happens when we go the wrong direction with what we place value on. So this is a caution, not a declaration for men to hoard power over women. Please understand that. Don't ever use this story to oppress other people. Now, here's the interesting thing about the word desire. Your desire will be for your husband. The word desire, it actually means longing for something that's never going to satisfy. It's reaching out for that thing that is never going to give you complete fullness. So she'll look for her value in relationships. And he'll find it in what he does, right? And we do this all the time, whether we're male or female. We try finding our value there, and usually we end up feeling more empty and more alone. Because how many of us, we finally got the promotion, or we experienced the success, or we purchased the car, and yet a year or 3 months, or maybe even as little as a couple weeks, you've already have a desire for something new. So why is this? Why are we never satisfied? Here's what I would argue. I would argue it's because we're hardwired to grow. We're hardwired to acquire knowledge and change and move and grow. We grow, we create, and when we do, we start the process all over again. And it's what we do. And it's frustrating, it's messy, and it's the most beautiful process in the world. And maybe the writers of the Hebrew Scriptures were right. Maybe seeking to be fully satisfied isn't the goal of life, of creating, of growing, obtaining knowledge. Maybe the real beauty is in the act of creating, the act of birth, the aha moment, the growth itself. Maybe it's not about an end result, but about the process. Maybe the real peace isn't found in the product you're consuming or creating or in the relationships we have, but maybe it's something a little bit deeper. Maybe our value, our happiness is the journey of becoming, of growing, of learning. Let me ask you this. Are you feeling anxious, dissatisfied? If so, let me first say, I get it, because it's part of life. You're feeling that way for a reason, because deep down you have a desire to grow, to learn, to create. So I would say, do it. Do the thing that makes your soul come alive. Understand that in the process, you're going to fail more than you succeed. But I would argue again, that's all part of the journey. And when you fail, when you have those bonehead moments when you didn't quite get it right, it didn't go the way you planned, here's the beauty of the story. Learn from it. Acquire wisdom. Use it to steer your life now towards success. And when you finish that one thing and you experience success, stop and enjoy it. And realize there's more along the journey. You have not arrived. The whole point of the journey is that it's a journey. It's constantly arriving and then having it flipped upside down and learning again. And that, to me, that sounds like real wisdom. Life is not about being fulfilled, finding this perfect state of non-change. It's actually about learning to embrace the ebbs and the flow of life, the ups and the downs. And so go live it fully. Find your happiness in the journey, not the end product. Steer your life with the wisdom you acquire, and when you do mess up, have a little grace on yourself and understand you ate the fruit a little prematurely. Learn the lesson and then get back on the path. So this was so much fun. Blessings this week. And as always, if you enjoyed this podcast, please go to my site, Tony Wuerffel, that's WUERFEL.com. And if you can, give a one-time donation or become a monthly donor of as little as $2 a month or more to help keep this podcast and website going. So again, I want to thank you so much for being a part of this. I can't wait to talk to you next week. Blessings.